Now, over the past few weeks, we've gone from zero to building a complete, persistent, full-stack web application. So we've planned it, we've built a back-end logic, designed a front-end interface, and even learned how to save it all professionally to get a GitHub portfolio. So we've completed the project, we've reached the destination. But in programming, reaching the destination is just the beginning. The real fun starts when you look at what you've built and ask, how can I make it better? Today, our final lesson in this series, we're going to discuss 3 bonus features that will take your finance tracker from a great student project to an amazing personal tool. So think of it as your first assignment as an independent developer. So now, bonus feature number 1, a list of transactions is useful, but the single most important piece of financial information in the bottom line is what is my current balance. So this is primarily a back-end task. So we need to calculate the total and pass it to the front end. So the plan, and then after we load transaction, we need to create a new variable with a balance and then loop through the transaction list, and then for each transaction dictionary, and then we'll need to get the amount value and then convert it from a string to a float and then add it to the balance. And then finally, when we call render template, we pass the balance in the new variable. All right, so we could do something like this. So somewhere here we can have balance variable, and then we can initialize it with 0. All right, and then we're gonna loop through that balance. So for T in transactions, then the balance, we make sure that we convert it to a float. So you make sure that we don't forget to convert it to float. And then we just need to pass the balance here along. So we're just going to say balance is balance. We pass it along our index, right? Then on the index.html, perhaps we can have another heading 2 here, or heading 3, and we can just say current balance. Okay, now the second thing is that right now all the amounts they look the same, but in finance there's a huge difference between money coming in and money going out. Now let's look at our table to actually let's make our table to reflect that visually with colors. So I'm gonna go to style, and then somewhere here I'm gonna do income, so income will be the color will be green, and then the expense will be the color will be red. Now then we can go to the index.html and just go back to the index.html, and then somewhere here let me see it. So here we can just apply a class. We can just say class, sorry, not actually on the amount itself, not on the transaction itself, not on the description, but on the amount itself. So we can just add a class income, and then if transaction dot amount and then else it's expense. So we're just saying if the transaction is greater than 0, that means it's an income. So if it's less than 0, it's an expense. Alright, and then here we must just make sure that we apply the formatting as well. So let me rather put this on the next line so that we can, let's do that, and then here we can just say so we can do so the pipe float filter. This is crucial because the amount from our CSV is a string, but we need to treat it as a number, to see if it's positive or negative. Now your expenses will be actually red, and your income will be green. Let's actually have a look, since we've done a couple of things here. So we can run this and let's see. Alright, so you can see that is actually my my expenses are actually red, and then the current balance is, so if I put let's say I sold laptop sale, and then I sold it for 12,000. Then you can see that I have actually, my balance is actually green now. Sorry, my income is green and my expenses are red, and then my current balance is now 6,500. Alright, so another feature that we can actually add, because now if we click like this, we just have like the normal HTML thing, just because of, input validation that says please fill out this field, which is not the correct way of doing things. What if a user tries to add transactions with no description, or types ABC in the amount field? All right, because I can type ABC in the amount field, and what's going to happen right now, our app will crash. So a professional application should never crash. It should handle the bad input and give the user a helpful error message. So this is a back-end task that uses our try and accept skills. So now let's go back to our ad. Let me just close this. So we're gonna go back to our app, and then let's go to our add transaction. So I actually add a validation, so a validation logic. So we're gonna say if not description, and then error, description cannot be empty. Render template. Okay, so we must actually get this. Oh yeah, so return render template, which is index.html, and then with transactions. Okay, I always forget the C on transactions for some weird reason. I don't know why I type it like the transactions. All right, it should be fine. And then we must also return it with the error. So error. All right, now for the amount, we can use a try Alright, so that will end, and then finally we just save and then return. Alright, so now in this in the index, we just need to add a small code, a small block of code, maybe somewhere above the form, maybe somewhere here, just above the form. So we're gonna say if error so we'll actually need to add a style for our error message. So now what you can do, we can just go to style, and then somewhere here we can just have error message, and we can just say the color is red. Let's go ahead and check it out now. Okay, so in order for us to actually see it work, I think what we need to do is to remove the required on the index. So we need to remove this required here, because now our back end is gonna handle that, not the HTML. Right, so we can go ahead and run this once more. And then if I click there, oh, it's because you see now here we must just make sure on add we have the balance. We have the balance like this. Make sure that we have the balance there, and then just need to pass the balance as well. Hence, so the same thing here, we must just pass the balance. Right, so that should actually solve the problem. Right, so if I go and click here, so that error must tell me description cannot be empty. Now we've got a proper error handling or proper input validation. And with that, we are officially done. So we've gone from printing hello world to building a full stack persistent web application. We've learned the fundamentals of Python, the structure of web development, and professional practices of version control and error handling. So the rest of the journey is yours. So just take whatever that you've learned, implement them, and invent your own. You know, add categories, add a date to each transaction, add a chart. Your GitHub portfolio is your canvas. All right. When we begin this course, we started with a blank file and a simple goal to make a computer print hello world, or so we've journeyed from absolute fundamentals of variables and logic to complex architecture of a full stack web application. So we've mastered data structures with a list and dictionaries, and organize your logic with functions, and adopted a professional mindset with object-oriented programming. We didn't just learn to write code. We've learned how to read it. We've learned how to debug. We have faced file not found error, template syntax error, name error. We've learned that an error log is not a failure, it's a map to a solution. So we've built a complete persistent web application from nothing. We've styled it with CSS, powered it with a Flask backend, giving it a memory with file I/O, and published it in our professional portfolio on GitHub. So you're no longer just a student of Python, but you're a developer, so you're a problem solver, you're a builder. So the moment is not an end, this moment is not an end, it's just a commencement. So the road ahead is long, but you are now fully equipped for this journey. Your next steps are not about finding a new course, but it's about choosing direction. Go deeper into the web. Explore a more robust framework like Django for larger projects. Learn to replace your CSV with a true database, like an SQL database, or RM like SQL. Explore the world of data like your new Python skills. Apply them to data science with libraries like Pandas, NumPy, and Matplotlib. Automate and build. Look around at your daily life and find tedious tasks that you can automate with script. Build tools for yourself and for your community. So your GitHub profile is now your public resume. Your knowledge of Git commit and Git push just as valuable as the knowledge of the for loop. Okay, continue to build, continue to save, and continue to share your work. Now you've got tools, you have the skills, you have the mindset. Go and build something remarkable.